Hello everybody, welcome back. This is Brian with ZimCo Survival. And I'm going to do the myths of an emergency blanket. A lot of people tout that, this was designed by NASA and it will reflect 90% of your body heat, and because of that people think that they can carry just this and it'll replace a sleeping bag and all that good stuff. No. This emergency blanket, first let me give you a little bit of history behind it. This was developed by NASA and it will reflect 90% of your body heat in space, not on Earth. And there's a reason for that. Heat is lost on Earth through many different ways, not just one. In space, it's lost through radiation. The heat radiating away from your body is the primary way you lose body heat, because there's nothing physically coming in contact with you. On Earth, you lose it through convection and radiation, primarily. Anything coming in contact with your body will cause you to lose heat through convection. Even the wind. Air itself will pull heat away from you as it touches you, which is why wind chill is a factor. This blanket will not reflect 90% of your body heat on Earth because of the fact that it doesn't protect from convection. There's a reason that clothes and sleeping bags and everything else deal with loft. The amount of air in the material through the insulation. So the higher the loft, the more air is trapped, the warmer you'll be, because it will protect you from losing heat through radiation, and it'll trap the heat you're losing through radiation, and it will help protect you from the outside air coming in contact with you and losing heat through convection that way. That's why, for example, a lot of campers and stuff use sleeping mats to keep them up off the ground, to keep the earth keep them from losing heat through the earth through convection. This blanket does not protect from that. Let me go ahead and open it up here for you. These things are very loud. Alright. So there it is. That's how thin it is. Okay? It will only keep you from losing heat from radiation. It will not help you with convection. Plus, more often than not, these little blankets are too small to physically wrap yourself entirely up in them. My legs are completely exposed. I have absolutely no protection around my legs. So while something like this will start to reflect your body heat and will probably help keep your core warm, it is not going to keep you from getting frostbite, especially around your feet. During temperature tests that I've done with this, I have found that on average, a blanket like this will keep my core body temperature about 15 degrees, or the air around my body around 15 degrees higher than the ambient temperature around me. So if it's 30, it'll keep me at about 45. Now that's something. It will definitely keep you a little bit warmer, but it's not the only thing you have to carry with you. Simply because, yes, 2 degrees can make the difference. Any amount of extra heat is a good thing. But carrying just a Mylar blanket is not going to help you as much as a lot of people think it does. Now, let me take this thing off. A lot of people do it. A lot of people will carry a Mylar blanket and they figure it'll work. It'll be exactly what I need. Or a Mylar sleeping bag. And while yes, it does reflect body heat, like I said, it doesn't protect you from the air and everything else. If you've ever used one of these in the cold, and I've used a couple of them when it's been cold outside, any part of that blanket touching your skin feels like ice. Your legs feel like ice. They are not warm at all. It's really only good for helping to keep your core body temperature warm. And while better than nothing, like I said, it's not going to be a one-stop shop solution. I actually have a sleeping system that consists of a jungle blanket by Snugpak, a Titan survival bag, which is a Mylar survival bag. Now it is much thicker than one of these little survival blankets, but it's still a survival blanket. You know, it's not a an insulated item at all. And a Snugpak jungle sleeping bag. I put the sleeping bag inside of the Mylar sleeping bag from Titan, and then I put all of that. Sorry, it's trying to fly away on me. I put the sleeping bag inside of the Mylar sleeping bag from Titan, and then I put that on top of the jungle blanket and wrap the jungle blanket over the whole system. That helps to insulate the survival blanket from the ground. Now, I always put leaves and things underneath that to help insulate more and protect it from loss of heat through convection. The Mylar blanket helps to keep that temperature inside of my sleeping bag, and the sleeping bag helps to protect the Mylar blanket from losing heat through convection through my skin. So all together is actually very warm, but just the sleeping bag alone doesn't work. It's not warm enough. So I need all three pieces to make the system work properly. And that's something that I wanted to dispel. I wanted to dispel some of those myths that survival blankets are a phenomenal survival item. They're light, they're small, they're compact, you should carry one. But if you're going to be using it as your only source of protection as far as heat goes, you will end up regretting it. It's an emergency blanket for a reason. You use it when you have nothing else. If you have the ability to plan for the survival event, like you're building a bug out bag or whatever like that, make sure to actually have a sleep system ready. So if you want to add, like I did, the Mylar bag to the sleep system to help increase its temperature rating, do it. That's fine. But as a part of your sleep system. Now if you're using it in a small little survival kit because you go out hiking and stuff like that and you end up getting into a survival situation, then yes, the Mylar bag is going to help you. Or the Mylar blanket. If you have to choose between one or the other, whether it's a blanket or a sleeping bag, go with the sleeping bag. The Mylar emergency bivvies that they sell, because those are actually going to completely cover your body and will help a lot more than simply using one of these little blankets, because it only came down to about my knee. It didn't cover anything else. So if you're lucky, you're still going to have a miserable night. If it's too cold, you'll end up going into hypothermia. Now, I want to tell you guys how to actually use it in a survival situation and insulate it without having another sleep system available. You can do this by lining a whole bunch of leaves, boughs, anything you can to get you up off the ground, to add insulation underneath you and keep you up off the earth. The next step, you put down your emergency bivvy, your emergency not blanket, but your emergency sleeping bag. And then you continue piling leaves up on top of that. So you have this big leaf mound that you're sleeping inside of. Crawl into the survival bivvy, and then cover yourself up with leaves or anything else to help reduce the heat loss through your face and head. That will keep you the warmest as far as using an emergency blanket goes. Now, I carry blankets with me, but as liners for my shelters, for any survival shelters I have to make. I carry an emergency poncho and an emergency blanket. And what I'll do is I will line the inside of my shelter with the blanket, put the emergency poncho over the entrance, build a fire and a reflecting wall. The reflecting wall will help to push the heat from the fire back towards my shelter. The emergency poncho will help trap that heat inside my shelter. The heat will pass through the poncho and into my shelter. And then the emergency blanket will help to keep that heat reflecting around in my shelter. You can actually keep a shelter made that way pretty comfortable, 60 to 70 degrees sometimes, even if it's snowing outside. So there are ways to take and use a survival blanket in a survival situation and have it be actually useful and help keep you warm. But simply wrapping yourself up in it isn't the way to do that. Like I said, in my experiments, it's only kept my core temperature around my body at about 15 degrees higher than the ambient air. So a 30-degree night, you're still down at 45 degrees. It's still cold and you're still going to be shivering. So I just wanted to go ahead and let you guys know that, because I keep hearing stuff about, oh, I have a survival blanket, I'm fine, or anything like that. And to me, that just kind of, it bugs me a bit, because most of these people have never even taken it out of the bag. They've never actually tested and used one, and they think it's going to work. 90% of my body heat, that means it's going to keep me at 90 degrees, and no, that's not how it works. And I wanted to let anybody who might be interested to find out what a survival blanket really is and what it can really do, kind of give you guys that information. I am a strong advocate of the emergency survival sleeping bags. If you buy a good quality one, I recommend buying the one that Titan makes. Really thick, very durable, great quality, packs down to about this big, reusable. So if you're going to use just a survival sleeping bag made out of Mylar, go with the Titan one. I'll be doing a review on one of those sometime in the future. But if that's all you have, again, make sure you insulate it. Don't just rely on the sleeping bag, the Mylar sleeping bag. Make sure you put leaves, boughs, anything you can to help insulate that bag, because it will make a huge difference in its effectiveness. Can mean the difference between not getting any sleep and getting some sleep. So there you go. Those are my myths as far as survival blankets go. Myth number one, it's going to reflect 90% of your body heat. It doesn't do that on Earth. It does it in space, but not on Earth. Number two, you only need to carry a survival blanket. No, if you are planning like a 3-day bag, get home bag, a survival kit of any kind that you are pre-making, then yes, carry a survival blanket or survival sleeping bag with an adequate sleep system, so that use that blanket or sleeping bag, Mylar sleeping bag, to increase the temperature rating on your sleep system. That is a great way to use them. If you're in an emergency situation and you're setting up a kit just for an emergency, if you get lost for a couple of days, skip the blanket and go straight for the Mylar sleeping bag. Again, try to go for the Titan. That one's really good. Then, when you actually have to use it, if you actually have to use it, hopefully you never will, but if you do, make sure to insulate the bag itself. Like I said, I have a sleep system that insulates the Mylar bag, but if you don't, use leaves, anything you can find to build up a big mound around it so that you have a good, adequate source of insulation. And that will make a huge difference as far as survival sleeping bags go, or survival blankets. But there you go. That's my discussion video. Thank you guys for watching. And as always, if you like this video, please hit the like button and subscribe. Thank you so much and have a good night. Bye-bye.